Hey gamers, welcome back. It is a wonderfully rainy day here in Kaohsiung, Taiwan. It is actually off today for both of us, but that's another story. Today's news, we've got some interesting things and some weird things and some exciting things happening. On Adam's side of the show, he's going to talk about 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙦 Mage Arena, which you might have seen on YouTube, with lots of really funny short clips. The game called Killer Inn, which just finished its beta, but you can sign up for something else. On the shorts side or topical side or news side of the show, Adam's going to be talking about Roblox CEO saying that he hopes the game turns into like a dating sort of app. We're also going to be talking about what other properties could become beat 'em ups based on a Reddit question. On my side of the show, we'll be talking about Echoes of the End, made by Mirkur Games, a wonderful indie studio of 40 people trying to give us AA quality on a really small team. The latest Soulframe update, and again, coming from me, I'm a big Warframe fan, so I'm looking forward to this. And on the last story, which is going to be on my channel as well, is the upcoming Grand Bazaar redone version of Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar, which is coming out at the end of August, that I'm excited to play. Adam, tell us about your first story.
Okay, so my first story is about Killer Inn. So Square Enix just recently did a beta. It ended yesterday, maybe it's today if you're in the US. But yeah, unfortunately it's over. But you can go to the Steam page and register if you and they will, they're taking names for future betas. So maybe you can get into one in the future. So this is a mafia style game. If you've played Among Us, you kind of have an idea of what to do here. But it does play a little bit differently than that. So in this game, you're going to have lambs versus wolves. And there are 24 players. You have 8 wolves and 16 lambs. And it's the wolves' job to kill off all the lambs, and it's the lambs' job to kill off all the wolves. But there's a little bit more to it to that. Another way that the lambs can win is also by escaping the castle. So what you have to do is you have to go through the castle. You can find certain keys. You get to the docks. You unlock the gate to the docks. You get in the boat. You raise the anchors, and you can sail away. Meanwhile, the wolves can actually try to sabotage your endeavors and, lower the anchors. So then you have to raise them again, that sort of thing. But what makes this game really different is in a game like Among Us, you find a body and you have to vote and try to figure out, oh, who was it? And we vote for somebody and maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong. In this one, no. You just play vigilante. If you think somebody's the killer, you take them out of the fight. But be careful, because if a lamb kills another lamb, then they are immediately ejected from the fight as well. So if you guess wrong, then then you die. So that makes it, so you can't just go around killing people willy-nilly. You do have to be kind of more thoughtful on how you do it. Now, as you're running through the castle, there are staff of this castle, and they're going to be very important to this game. For one, they act as a sort of safe zone. So if a wolf kills a lamb in an area that is within view of a staff member, then they will be punished for that. I'm not quite sure what the punishment is. I don't know if they're taken out of the game immediately or if they lose some levels or that sort of thing. But also, if you're a lamb, the way you figure out who is the wolf is a little bit of a detective game. So whenever a wolf kills a lamb, they're going to leave behind clues. And these clues could be things like bullet casings or hair or a piece of fabric or fingerprints or blood. And each of these clues has one of 3 levels. So depending on the level, it could narrow it down to who it is. So for instance, if it's a level 1 clue, you might narrow it down to like maybe 8 people, which is like a third of the group. So if you get, for instance, a piece of hair and it says this person has red hair, okay, well, a third of us have red hair, so that's not super helpful, but it's a little bit helpful. Or then you can get a level 2 clue. So if you find a duplicate of the same clue, so if you find hair and then you find hair again, it would move up to level 2, and that'll actually narrow it down to maybe 5 or so. And then if you get it to a level 3 clue, that'll narrow it down to maybe 2 people. So the higher, you can either find a duplicate of the clue, or you can go to a workbench and refine the clues. And if you can refine them, then they'll go up to another level as well. Now, if you're a lamb, you can take those clues and you can turn them into a staff member, and that's going to help you level up. So you're going to become, a little stronger, a little bit better. And it also might give you some currency or something like that. And what you can do is you can spend money either upgrading your gear so you can get better weapons, or you can get some armor, or you can pick poisons or buy traps or that sort of thing. Or you can buy clues that other people have turned in. So, you know, if I find a clue, I turn it in, and then somebody else finds a clue and they turn it in, then, you know, I can buy their clue, they can buy mine, and now we both have a better idea of like, oh, okay, who might be wolves and that sort of thing. So basically, yeah, as you're walking around, you'll see a character and it'll like highlight something over them, and it'll say like, oh, this person matches the fabric clue, but, you know, that just still doesn't narrow it down. But as you get more clues, you know, you're like, this person matches like 5 clues. That's a little bit suspicious. So yeah, so you can do that. You can also use like a focus mode. So like you can kind of sneak about and you can kind of hear things through walls. You don't know who it is, but you can kind of figure out like, oh, there was a murder here, that sort of thing. So yeah, and then once you do figure out who the wolves are, you know, it's open season. You just go in there guns blazing and just take them out straight away. You know, no need for a vote or anything like that. And obviously as a wolf, you're going to be going around, you know who the other wolves are. And yeah, you can actually conceal clues. So if you find a body, then you can, you know, try to hide the clues so then lambs can't find them, and that sort of thing. Also, at the very beginning of the match, there will be some random clues scattered about, so you don't have to wait for the first murder to figure out who the wolves are. You can actually gather clues at the very, very beginning. And again, wolves can find those clues and conceal them so that you can't find them. So yeah, for fighting, you have, you know, guns, melee weapons, grenades, poisons. You can set traps for people. You know, if you're a wolf, you could set a trap on a door and somebody opens the door and the door explodes or that sort of thing. Very spy versus spy, which is really, really cool. There are treasure chests that are unlocked around the area. You can go to, again, the staff members around the castle, and you can say, hey, you know what, I want to take on a quest. And they'll say, you know, something fairly easy, like, all right, you know, well, go solve this puzzle box or something. And you know, you go, you do it, and they'll give you a token. You can use those tokens to open up chests that'll have good level gear in it and stuff, sort of like that. Different characters that you select, kind of like a Dead by Daylight kind of thing, have different skills. Some people might be a little quieter when they move around, so they're a little more sneaky. Some people might be a little bit better at deduction, so they find clues more easily, or they refine them more easily. Some characters might be thieves, and you can pickpocket each other. So you can run around and be like, oh, that guy has a knife, I'd like that knife, you know, and take it from him. It's also going to have 3D audio for proximity chat. So if you're running around and somebody's, you know, on a banister, you know, in the hallway, or, you know, at the top of the stairs or something like that, you can hear that they're above you. Or you can hear that somebody's like down the hall and around the corner. So that's kind of cool that they're combining proximity chat with 3D audio. And yeah, it just looks really interesting. Very kind of a fun mafia style thing. I could see this being kind of like the next Among Us sort of, you know, thing to stream. We'll have to wait and see if it actually is or not. But if you want to know more, you can actually go to their website, and they do have an online manual, and you can go through there and it'll explain like, this is how the gameplay loop works. This is what you do if you're a wolf. This is how you level up. This is the kind of gear you can get. This is how you use it. So you can look all that stuff up online on the manual. It's actually pretty cool. So yeah, they did just finish a beta. So the beta was, I guess, over the last 3 days or so. And it ended on the 28th. But if you go to Steam, there is a button that you can click for request access, and then you're basically entering your name for the next beta. So, you know, who knows, maybe you'll get into it. So if it sounds interesting, you know, go ahead, register your name, and who knows, maybe they'll pick you in the future.
I mean, researching this as well when I was thinking about stories for this week, and I saw it. I'm like, Killer Inn, this sounds freaky. And then when you describe it, I'm like, oh, okay. This makes a lot of sense. I mean, thinking back, going over the last few years, like there's a bunch of games. There's the one where there are guys who are soldiers, and like people pretend to be inanimate objects, or they like they cannot pretend. Yeah, and the soldiers have to sort of like figure out like, oh, who is, and the last survivor is the winner, and that's really popular online. There was Phasmophobia. There was the one we were like people stranded on like an asteroid. I feel like there's a bunch of these games. Like you can talk about Mage Arena as well, which is another line in a long line of games. Repo is another famous game that was on the top of Steam charts. Again, also very famous on social media. I guess my question to you is like a discussion thought is like, how do these games stay relevant? Because I find like Repo's been relevant for a while, but not like about the same time as Phasmophobia was relevant. I can't remember some of the names of these things, but like each game has its time in the sun. With the exception of Fortnite, I don't think any game has had the staying power of that. Call of Duty is the same. Like all these games have like descending numbers, but Fortnite's still been up there for years.
Yeah, I don't know
Um,
how Fortnite does it.
so I mean, like with Killer In, like how do you think? Do you think this is just gonna be another game where like they make as much money as they can in the initial release and that's it?
I think what they would do, yeah, I think what would happen is you would have the initial release. It'll, if it does get popular, you know, it might become the next Foam Stars and go nowhere. That's always a possibility. But if it, you know, if it did get big, I think it would kind of peak fairly early. A lot of people would jump on it. A lot of people would get, you know, you probably have a lot of really funny situations or whatever that people are posting a lot of shorts and whatnot. And then, you know, they're gonna, maybe it'll decline a bit. They'll get an update. It'll go up, but not as high as it did, and they'll start to decline a little more rapidly than it did the first time. And then, you know, another update maybe, and they'll continue to do that. I mean, the only way that I could see that you could, I don't think you can keep it up forever. I think Fortnite is the exception, not the rule. But the way I could see probably sustaining it as long as you possibly could would be consistently releasing new maps, consistently releasing new characters. You know, kind of like Apex does, where they're constantly coming out with new characters or revamping them, and they rotate the maps out. You know, so they'll have a couple different maps in a season, and then the next season they'll take one of those maps out and then add in an old one, and then the next season they'll take out another one and add back the one they took out, but with some changes to it, you know, some updates. Yeah, I would see that you'd probably have to do it that way. But you know, I don't see this game lasting like years. It'll probably be a fad, if anything. Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Like as you're talking about some, like, man, there's just been these series of games, like we talked about Unchained as well, where it's like multiplayer, and not necessarily like PvP. There's a lot of co-op stuff, which is wonderful. But a lot of games that seem to sort of want to take advantage of these, like you said, funny situations or crazy situations of people being very emotional and sometimes fake acting and sometimes really being like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Is this the trend that's going to continue? Because this, I mean, when we were growing up, right? I mean, again, it is also because of the internet and stuff, but even in the early 2000s, I mean, YouTube's been around for a while, like game clips were not a thing going back 15 years ago. Why is it a thing now?
I think it's entirely the internet. I think it's entirely just the fact that you can post anything online. I mean, we didn't have game clips online, but you know, you people watched game shows, and you know, you had moments that people would talk about and that sort of thing, and you have like highlight reels of sports bloopers and that sort of thing. So I mean, people have always been taking kind of the funny aspects of when something happens and it kind of becomes this cultural thing, or it gets referenced in other things and whatnot, you know. So yeah, I think it's entirely just the fact that the internet allows anybody to record anything and then put it up for perpetuity, whereas the bar for that before was, you know, unless you're running a pirate TV station, you probably don't have too many options in that regard.
No, that's true. I think it's maybe it's more accessibility, like as more people got phones and internet and that sort of stuff, it became like, whereas in the early 2000s, it was, you had DSL. God, I remember Verizon DSL when I was living in Massachusetts, and it was not super fast, and maybe that prevented people from creating these clips. Maybe like no one wanted to make clips of like Unreal Tournament 2004 or Battlefield 1942 going back those years ago.
Yeah, I don't think it was so much that nobody wanted to make clips as much as there just wasn't a good platform to share those kinds of things. I mean, you had like Leroy Jenkins and stuff like that way back in the day.
Yeah. Oh God.
And All Your Base Are Belong to Us. I mean, some of those were like, you know, flash video things. So people wanted to share funny things, but there just wasn't a good platform for it, you know, or a good way to distribute that. But there is now, so.
Dude, YouTube started in 2005, man. It's been 20 years.
Yeah, no, it's been a while.
So I mean, there was a platform back then, but why are we only getting all of this stuff? I would say in the last
YouTube back
7
then was a
years.
little bit different. I mean, Leroy Jenkins probably was originally on YouTube or something similar, or Buy No Black Sheep or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, you're the man now, dog. Yeah, I think it's just YouTube was around, but I mean, it was still kind of a new idea, you know. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I was just thinking about this, like, man, it just feel like the last 3 years or so since I've gotten into like shorts, Instagram Reels, and Facebook Reels, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of gaming stuff again because I play video games. You play video games for sure, but I've always been playing video games, and I just never saw it in the early days of YouTube. And I was thinking about that.
Yeah. So looking it up, Leroy Jenkins was also 2005.
Oh, damn.
So I mean, that was like, yeah. So I mean, that's literally the same year YouTube comes out. So I mean, it's immediately after YouTube coming out, people are posting silly things on the internet.
Right. Nice.
And I mean, like, the whole website, "You're the Man Now, Dog," is a quote from Sean Connery from, I can't remember the movie, but you remember that one? Oh, okay, so but you know the website "You're the Man Now, Dog," right? It's like YTMN. I don't know, but they had like they were the ones that were like they were kind of like albino black sheep. They would post like the Badger song, Badger, 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 Badger. They would post that sort of thing. So some of those came from that website, but then that website itself is a reference to like a short clip in a movie that Sean Connery did where I don't remember exactly what it is. He's like a teacher or something like that, and he's like teaching this like inner city kid, and he's trying to like relate to the kid. And one of the trailers for it, and it was in the movie, of course, too. But in one of the trailers, he's trying to relate to this kid, so he's trying to speak in the kid's lingo, and he's like, "You're the man now, dog," And then people started making fun of it because they're like, "That just sounds so weird coming from Sean Connery." So yeah, people were doing it. They just weren't referencing it in video form. It was just in other things.
True. Also true. Okay, moving on from multiplayer gaming, even though we're going to come back to it in a fair bit. I'm going to talk about a studio which I found on Instagram, and I was scrolling as I usually do, way too much probably for my age. But I found this game called Echoes of the End. So, what if your words could shape reality? Echoes of the End lets you wield that power literally. So, this game really caught my eye because the studio, Mirror Games, and I'm butchering the name for sure, they're an Icelandic or Slavic studio, and they came online, like they lean into like, we're an indie studio, we're really small, we're taking a big risk making this game, and it is because this game looks really good. And then when you think about, hey, this game is made by 40 people, and it's like a Dark Souls-ish game, or like they call this a AA game, and it definitely very much is that. I mean, they're doing a very good job on social media because, like, usually with a AA game, you're like, okay, what are the limitations of this game? What am I being shown, but I'm not being seen? A bunch of other stuff that is going to sort of bring down my expectations of it. But what is it, right? So it's a narrative-driven fantasy story. It focuses on Rin, a former assassin with the power to manipulate matter. So you have like gravity powers and other sorts of different powers in the game on top of the sword combat. And I shared like some gameplay video that I found with Adam. So Rin has this unique ability to deconstruct and reconstruct matter, and it impacts combat. And besides combat, there's also puzzle solving. So this sort of thing makes me think of like the modern Tomb Raider games, I guess, if you can call them kind of modern, where it sort of shifted into some action, some puzzle solving, but also being in like really beautiful environments, telling a very emotional story, especially with that first remake of Tomb Raider in the early 2000s. I don't remember, but you guys know about that. That game was super famous. So the game has a lot of like stunning Icelandic inspired visuals with motion capture. I mean, amazing that this small studio on a very thin budget, right, managed to get motion capture shit done. It is an open world again, and again, that's kind of cool because Like I remember Adam playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and man, like Adam, I could see Adam was getting tired playing that game because it went on forever and ever and ever. And you know, I used to think that was just Adam, but then like I've seen multiple videos where people complain that Valhalla was just way too long. So it's this is kind of good, right? That Echoes of the End is not open world, so you get to do the story. It's 20 to 30 hours, maybe. We still don't know about the timing of it, and then you're done, which could again appeal to me. I did not notice the length of the game like Veilguard. Like I finished Veilguard the other day at like 53 hours or so, and I've not done 50 hours in the game in a very long time. So besides the story, right, there's also some good character development, good character sort of relationships and storytelling. So there's a relationship between Rune and the character Sidra. So this game is published by Prime Matter. This is their very first game, as I sort of hinted to at the intro. And I think this also sort of ties into the theme we're talking about, right? Like in gaming, right, we're moving into a situation where like AAA games cost too much money. We've seen sort of studios say, hey, this took us like, I mean, what GTA 6 has cost $600 million to make or something, like some crazy amount of money, right? Other games have cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make, right? And we're moving into a situation where like, hey, I like this studio, I'm going to give them some money, like I've done for the My Time at X series, right? Where every Kickstarter, I've given them some money, and every Kickstarter, they've earned progressively more money, with My Time at Evershine earning over $1 million, right? Impressive amounts of money. And I think as gamers, especially as older gamers who have wallets to open, we can now support students and say, hey, thank you for making this amazing game. This is what I wanted. This is the kind of game I'm looking for. And then EA and Ubisoft, a Sucker Punch, maybe that's probably the wrong company to throw in there, is probably not going to make the kind of game that I want. So I'm happy for this. So I think we need more companies to take risks, and we need them to be rewarded for these risks. And especially offering games at lower price points, not doing the $80 or the $90 or the $70 games, saying, hey, let's do this as a throwback. Here's a $50 game with $50 worth of value. It's not AAA, but it's still going to be awesome. It's still going to do new things. It's still going to make you feel like, hey, this is worth it for me, even though it's not coming from someone I would have liked and I would have had high expectations for. I took a risk because you took a risk, and I'm happy that I bought this game and supported it. Now I have a new franchise that I love. So I'm excited. I think we need more new games. And I know for me, I'm lucky, right? There's so many new card games, so many new like cozy indie games. Those are easy to develop, but it's very difficult to develop a full-on 3D action Souls-like combat puzzler game with 40 people in the studio, especially living in Europe where costs are higher. So if you're interested, check out the Steam page. Make sure you wish list. This is just on Steam, I believe. And then, you know, I think if they do well, they'll probably get a console port at some point in the future and probably get a number 2. But Echoes of the End looks cool. It's something I would like to play, especially since we're covering RPGs these days. But yeah, let me know what you think.
Yeah, it looks kind of interesting. I mean, we're seeing mostly like just kind of a one dungeon gameplay footage, but yeah, it looks good enough. Yeah, just I don't know why, but when you're talking about Valhalla, it reminds me of like watching it's long, like a Bollywood movie is long, you know, where you watch it, and I mean it is inherently long, right? They're like 3 hours plus, but yeah, you get to a certain point and you're like, okay, it's over, and then it just keeps going, and you're like, oh, it's not over. Okay, all right, well, all right, let's just keep going then. And then you're like, oh, okay, this is the end. And then it's like, no, that wasn't the end. Okay, that seemed like a good stopping point, but all right, you know, it was much like that, where it's just kind of like just keeps going. Yeah, that game was so long.
No, I felt the same. Like I loved Odyssey. That was the first like new kind of Assassin's Creed that I played. But man, like you had to kill like X number of like villains in the game. Like after killing 20 or 30 of them, I'm like, okay, I finished the story. I still have other people to kill, but I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. And yeah, I mean that's another story. We could do like the old days of mad gaming philosophy debates about like value for games and that sort of stuff. But are you talking about else or
I am,
Ghost?
but I do want to say, like, when you're talking about this game too, so you can transmute stuff. Is that like, what's it called? Full Metal Alchemist?
Oh, I didn't thought about that.
But is that kind of what's going on here, where you're like manipulating
They
matter?
haven't explained a lot about it, and I haven't seen it in gameplay. But supposedly, you're so able to do transmute stuff into different things. Yes.
Okay,
But
because I always
I did
thought
not
Full Metal
explain.
Alchemist was like prime target for video games, and I know they've had a few, but they haven't had like a big one.
Right.
But I was like,
I've never watched Full Metal Alchemist, a cartoon, but know about it and I've heard people talk about it, which is why I know.
yeah, you just they just use it's called alchemy, but it's effectively magic. But you can transmute anything. So anything of sequel they call it equivalent exchange. So anything of a certain, I guess it would be density, you could create the you could transmute that matter into an equivalent size, or so if I had like 10 pounds of something, I could transmute it into 10 pounds of something else, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, there's more to it than that, but we're not going to talk about that today. Yeah, so we're going to talk about Hell Is Us is what we are going to be talking about. So Hell Is Us is a game that is coming out, and I'll get to that at the end, because they finally released the release date. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. They finally released the release date just a few days ago, and yeah, so we'll get into that. But anyway, before we do that, let's get into what is Hell Is Us. So a lot of people looking at this were thinking, okay, this is going to be another Souls-like, it's kind of a sci-fi setting one. But the creators are saying, no, it's not really a Souls-like. It's pretty much an action RPG. You're not going to have the same kind of mechanics that you would in a Souls game. If you die, you die. It's not, you go back and you have to regain your stuff. But it's actually going to be a little bit different than what a lot of games have been. And again, this might actually sound a little bit Souls-like. But the difference here is that you're not going to have any kind of map indicators whatsoever. So in this game, you're in the alternate 1990s. There is a country. I don't remember the name. It starts with an H, but it's not a real country. But there was a calamity, and after this calamity, a bunch of supernatural creatures started showing up, and this country went into a civil war. And during that time, the main character Remy was sent out of the country by his parents, and now he is returning to this country as a much older person with the UN. He's working for the UN as a peacekeeper. So he's returning. He's trying to find his father. And there's all these supernatural creatures around. You can't really attack them with conventional weapons until he finds this kind of magical sword that he can use. And then I'm not sure if the sword transforms or he finds other similar weapons, but there are other weapons in the game. You can get swords, spears, axes, that sort of thing. But anyway, when you go in, you're trying to find your father, and this game is semi-open world. But as I said, there's no map, there's no compass, there's no quest markers. So they really want you to pay attention to what people are saying. So for example, one thing that they showed in the trailer, a different trailer, but was he goes into this basement, he meets this old man, and the old man says something about if you want to find a key or something, you're gonna have to go through the woods, but if you're walking through the woods, just follow the wind chimes, that's the path. So then you have to remember, okay, when I go into the woods, I find the wind chimes, I follow those through. And then you have a kind of like a little, it's kind of like a Pip-Boy. I mean, it looks like it's really basic technology. It's supposed to be in the 1990s. So this is pre-modern technology. There are cell phones, but they're not really fancy. So you're not really using one. But yeah, so you can kind of keep track of who you've met. It's kind of has a dossier on all the people that you've met. It'll kind of say like where you met them, maybe some information on things that they said, that sort of thing. But there's nothing that indicates like, okay, you need to go do this next. It's more of a reminder for you where you're like, oh, okay, I talked to that guy and he mentioned something about a basement, and there might be something in it and that sort of thing. The developers were saying originally they were thinking of adding kind of like a pen and paper mechanic where you could record your own notes, because that's kind of how things used to be if you played really, really old games. Like on Ultima or something like that, but they ultimately ended up going with this way, and then they said, well, it's better if you want to take notes, you can do that, but you're gonna have to do it on your own. So what does make it a little bit different than a Souls game is the combat is a little bit unique. Your stamina is actually locked to your health, so the weaker you are, the less stamina you're going to have. So, you know, as you grow weaker, it's going to be harder for you to attack. So you're going to have to back out, and you're going to have to, you know, recuperate to keep yourself in the fight. Also, healing items are fairly rare. So the way you're going to be doing healing primarily in this game is occasionally enemies might release kind of particles emit from them after certain attacks or something like that, and you have to do a kind of a timed pulse, and you can absorb those and heal you back. So if you've played Neo, you're kind of used to that pulse mechanic there. It's not for healing there, it's to dispel like the evil demon realm stuff. But if you play Neo, then that'll feel fairly familiar. So what was kind of interesting to me was the quote by one of the, or by the creative director. He says, "The central theme of Hell Is Us is that human violence is a perpetual cycle fueled by humans' emotions and passions." And yeah, thought-provoking stuff. You know, that's never been done in a video game before. I'm truly inspired. I am, of course, being sarcastic. I mean, that's like Fallout, and it seems like that's a really common theme. But yeah, that's the theme here. So anyway, it will release September 4th, which means that I don't know when I'm going to get to this, because I was planning on doing Silent Hill in September, and then October is going to be Ghost of 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙦. So I don't know. This one might have to be sitting on the back burner for me for a while, unfortunately, which is a little bit disappointing because I did really, really want to play this game. But yeah, unfortunately, time is a limited commodity. So yeah, September 4th, check it out. Hell Is Us looks very interesting. I will get to it at some point. So yeah.
Looks cool. I remember, again, I would imagine you and I were researching the same things. I saw this, I watched, I think a video or a trailer or something, and I was just reading something to refresh my mind. And I'm like, cool. And then I'm like, oh yeah, no map markers, no quest markers. I'm like, no, thank you. For me anyway. Again, like speaking of, we talked about Echoes of the End, right, being very precise and linear, which again, that might turn off some people. That's a turn on for me. But this game looks nice, looks really interesting. I love, again, the price point. It's $40 on Steam, at least on the Taiwanese store, right? 60, how much is that? Like $50 for the premium deluxe edition. When are you ever going to see a price like that? And the game looks really good looking for that price, right? Like it's AA verging on AAA graphics quality. So it looks cool, and I definitely think there's a market for that. And again, another, are there like a smaller studio making this, I would imagine?
I would think so.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's so I'm all the power to them.
Yeah, I mean, on the map thing, I'm okay with there not being quest markers and not being a compass. For me, a lack of a map is kind of I'm not quite sure of, but I will say I would prefer if there's a map, but there's no indication of your position on the map. So you can just pull up, it's literally just a paper map, and you're like, okay, there's a church tower over there, and I can see, like, I'm in the town square. Okay, so on the map I should be here. I want to go there. You know, I don't need an indication on the map of where I am or where the or of my direction or that sort of thing. But I do like having a map that I can pull up and be like, okay, if I'm in town square, you know, and then somebody says like, oh, you should go to blah, blah, blah's pub. And it's like, well, I have no idea where that is. So I'm just going to wander around aimlessly. You know, at least if I have a map, I can try to triangulate and be like, okay, well, it looks like it's over here. I'm over there. So yeah, I prefer if they just had a paper map with no, no UI. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It seems like they're kind of going more for an investigation kind of side to it. So you're supposed to be investigating stuff. I do think that is kind of interesting. I am playing Doll's Nest, yeah, and I would have liked a map in that simply because there are times where you're running around and you're like, okay, where do I need to go? You know, I'm in this facility and it just loops back, loops back, loops back. There's 10 doors in here. Which door do I take? I can't remember which door I'm supposed to take. So, yeah.
No, I think you've mentioned something about maps before, and yeah, and even like in that situation, like if I was in the right frame of mind, I totally agree. Like I could do a map without telling me where I am. Avowed had something similar to that, not for the entire game, but for certain quests and stuff. And that was actually interesting. And I did it, and I'm like, okay, cool. This is interesting, mentally challenging, waking the brain up. So yeah, no, I could totally dig it. Okay, so on to my latest story. So if you've been following us for the last Village Gaming 2020, so 5 years, I had to think about that. I am a Warframe fan. Warframe is the game I've spent the most hours in any game in my entire life. I was with one of the people who started playing in the first 500, where you had to pay for. I feel like Warframe was the first game that did like founders packs or something like that, but I can think of probably not. But that was the first game I did a founders pack, and you bought in and you got to play in the. I don't even think it was an alpha. Like it was like some sort of like closed beta version 0.2 of Warframe. But anyway, I've been a big fan of the game. I've tried to jump back in since then. Unfortunately, the game's expanded so much. It has so many things. It's very overwhelming for me anyway, which is why I've sort of decided I won't go back. But Soulframe might be a game where the systems are, there's building out the systems, and I feel like games like that, if you get in at the beginning and you play it, you could get a few hundred hours out of it. Like I spent over 1,000 hours in Warframe. That's my Warframe hours and my Steam hours, because before Warframe was on Steam. So what is Soulframe, right? So Soulframe is by the company Digital Extremes, right, which is building more than a fantasy game. They're crafting a different, very living, breathing world of nature, spirits, and swordplay. Warframe was a lot about guns. You could do melee, and they tried to sort of walk the line of melee and guns in Warframe. Guns, I always felt were better, but this is like, Soulframe is going to be about melee weapons. It's going to be about magic. It's going to be about bows and arrows and that sort of stuff. Very medieval in a sense. So what happened right in July 2025 was TennoCon, which is like the Warframe event, but they also talked about Soulframe, and they gave some updates right on character customization, world building, and melee refinement. So the game is currently it's Prelude 10, I guess, is the latest update. And you go into a new haunted dungeon, and you get some new armor, right, called the Circade or the Sacard. And it's very much like, again, if you play Warframe and you saw the sort of updates that they did, they're doing sort of the similar thing of like, hey, let's slowly expand systems. And again, if you're somebody who plays games 4 hours on a day, right, this system you might find it a bit irritating or annoying, or like, hey, I want more content. But that's not the way the Digital Extremes teams work. You'll get like weekly content or bi-weekly content or monthly content. I think it's actually monthly for Soulframe. And they'll give you a few hours of content per week, maybe. And that's it. And again, right, game is it's version 0.1 or 0.2 for Soulframe. So you've still got a while to go until it releases, until all the content is built out. So if you're a person who likes to binge play, like I like to binge watch TV, this is probably not for you just yet. You might just want to wait until the game actually releases. Coming back to the game, you're getting new sidearm weapons. It's called the Odin Flyblade, which looks just like a throwing dagger, which looks kind of cool. I'll put the link down to the latest patch notes, and you can have a look at the video and the visuals besides the video that I shared with Adam today. So another update is armor now offers real protection. So you've got a helm, cuirass, and leggings now grant defensive stats tied to 3 core damage types: physical, magical, and stability. And stability would be, you know, when you hit something with force, right, how often do you stay on your legs? Or like knockdown might be another word used in like RPG games. So there's all of that. So I've talked about the gunplay system. So it's definitely slower combat compared to Warframe's. Like Warframe was fast of jumping and slicing and running and dodging and shooting. This is definitely slower, and if you watch a lot of shorts, a lot of gameplay, follow Soulframe on Instagram or YouTube, and you'll see a lot of stuff there. It is still procedurally generated, which is something I did not know until I was researching for the story. Warframe's procedural generation was interesting because in the beginning, I was like, okay, this is really interesting. I mean, this is going back more than 10 years for Warframe. I'm like, okay, cool. This is kind of cool. But then as I was playing Warframe, I'm like, this doesn't add too much of value. So let me know down in the comments, where do you fall on the side of procedural generation? Is it good? Do you care? I don't care anymore. I don't think it adds much to a game. So Soulframe is still open world like Warframe. It is, there's going to be environmental storytelling, there's going to be quests, there's going to be night and day cycles, there's going to be places you go to where there's different stories being told in that place. Again, you can play it, and I have an invite to Soulframe. When I'm actually gonna play it is another story, because I have a whole bunch of other stuff, as Adam and I have talked about multiple times on the show, right? With the way the channel is going and the exciting news, and we're getting CD keys from developers. We had 3 CD keys in the last 10 days. I mean, like, this is the stuff that you got to work on as a content creator, even at our 40-something age. So it doesn't leave a lot of time to play games that you like to play or try out or try and support. So that being said, though, if you want to jump in, and Digital Extremes has forums and stuff that you can go and communicate issues to, and they do talk about it, and they do mention things in the forums, and they do read it, they do read YouTube comments. So we don't know when the full game is going to come out. The full game of Warframe, if I remember correctly, from the time they launched the closed beta edition with only 500 people to the full open edition, was 7 years. So Soulframe, I think you could start playing Soulframe about a year ago, which was 2024. So we could get the full release of Soulframe in 2031 if we're lucky, but who knows. But have you played Soulframe? Let us know down in the comments. Are you an ex-Warframe veteran? What do you think about Soulframe? I'd love to know as well. And that's it.
Yeah, I played a little bit of Warframe with you, and then didn't play for a really long time, because I remember back then it was still pretty much beta, and my computer had an issue where like the ports wasn't allowing me to play, so I had to stop for a really long time. Tried to get back into it on the PlayStation, and then I was just kind of like, there's too much stuff going on. I don't really understand what all these systems are.
My feeling exactly. Yeah, like I tried last year or something like that when I got my new graphics card, and I played for 30 minutes. I'm like, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, also when I played it originally on the computer beta, one of the characters you could play as was Volt, and so I got used to Volt, and then when I played, I guess, the full version, he was not one of the original ones that you had to like unlock him later. So I was kind of like, oh, the one I'm used to playing is not available. Okay, odd. Yeah, Soulframe always seemed kind of interesting. I'm a fan of procedural generation. I feel like it adds more replay value. Like in Helldivers, you land on a planet, and I think it makes the world feel, depending if you do it right, I think it makes the world feel bigger. For instance, like if you were comparing, say, Helldivers to Mass Effect, you go to a planet and you're just on this one tiny little part of a planet. Helldivers, you're gonna feel like, every time you land is a different situation, it's a different area. I think that's what Starfield was kind of trying to do, but it didn't quite work out. And but yeah, I think it worked really well in Warframe, because I mean, the idea a lot of the times, at least until later they put you on planets and stuff, but initially you're on ships, and it's like, that makes perfect sense that different ships have different layouts, or different space stations have different layouts. So it's not like I'm just going back to the same space station over and over and over and over again. And also, like when that happens, eventually you memorize where everything is. You memorize where every enemy is. You memorize where all the drops are. I think it adds a little bit, it's like, okay, I see some patterns here, but there's a little bit of exploration each time. So I think there's a lot to gain from procedural generation.
No, I agree with you. I think maybe for me it was like after 600-700 hours I started feeling this way. Like I was like, okay, I just wasn't caring so much. I don't remember the feeling, but it was like, and this is the only game that I felt this way. Like, I remember when I started Warframe, I'm like, cool, procedural generation. What is it? I Googled it. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. This is going to make the game new and expansive. And then after 7 years of playing Warframe, or 5 or 6 or 7 years, I'm like, yeah, I don't, it might just be an overexposure to the environments or playing. Because, with Warframe, there was, I wouldn't say a lot of grinding, but there's a fair bit of grinding and doing the same thing and seeing the same parts of a particular level. You kind of lost it. So maybe in shorter bursts, like in 100 hours or 200 hours or so, it's fine. But maybe after 500 hours, procedural generation gets kind of tiring. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Like, on the one hand, if you don't have a lot of, especially if you're like piecing together ships and stuff like that, if you don't have a lot of variety, you're kind of like, you're seeing, you start to recognize kind of the limitations of it, and you're like, yep, I've seen this module 50 times. But I think also, like, I can see where you're saying, if you're playing a game like, say, Warframe, and it is grindy, and you're like, okay, I need this item. If you're going into a different place every single time, you're like, okay, now I have to search this entire area looking for the thing. Whereas if it's a game like Skyrim or something, you're like, I know where it is. I know exactly where it is in this dungeon. I can just go straight there and get it. Like, I don't have to waste time running around and re-exploring an entire spaceship just looking for this one item. So I can see it. I can see the downsides in that regard. I still prefer it, but yeah, no, nothing's perfect.
Totally true. Speaking of nothing's perfect, tell us about Mage Arena.
All right, so yeah, Mage Arena is a really interesting idea here. Korean showed this to me. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I had not heard about it. It just came out like what, this week, I think, right? So this is actually a really interesting concept, and I can see a lot of things going wrong. And in fact, in the trailer, quite a few things seem to be going wrong. So in Mage Arena, you are playing as wizards versus warlocks, and it's the classic question of, you know, which one's better, wizards or warlocks? And if you've played Skyrim you might remember that when it first came out for the Xbox with the Kinect, they decided that they were going to add voice controls to the shouts. So you could sit there in your living room and go, Fusrul Da, and it would, you know, do the shout. So basically somebody just took that and they're like, let's make that an entire game. So you're a wizard or a warlock, you have your spell books, and you have to cast your spells by calling them out by name, like some sort of anime protagonist using his attacks. You know, like, yeah, Dragon Ball, always, they have to say it, right? Kamehameha. You know, it won't work if you don't shout it out. So yeah, so that's what they're doing here. So, you know, you can watch the trailer and, you know, fireball, you know. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's very, very simplistic looking. It's not, you know, this looks like something you might have found in the early 2000s or something like that, you know, Morrowind, possibly even pre-Morrowind kind of era. But yeah, and the gameplay itself is actually pretty much kind of almost like a classic capture the flag. It's a little bit different. So what you're going to do is you have your two sides, you have your base. Inside your base, there's a flag. And you want to go through the world. You're going to be gathering resources to create items that are going to help you defeat your enemies. If you die, you respawn at your flag. So the way you win is you go to the enemy base, you capture their flag. Once their flag is captured, they can no longer respawn, and then you have to go through the world and hunt them down and kill them. You know, of course, if you leave the flag, they could probably come back and reactivate it or whatnot. But that's the gameplay loop. Yeah. So the basic game is 4v4. But you can also play 1v1 if you wanted to. Just go out there and shout at your friends and whatnot. But yeah, it's a really simple game. It's not graphically intensive. It's not meant to be a serious thing. It's intended to be completely silly. And so far, the reviews are overwhelmingly positive. I think if they had, and I think that's because it presents itself as, this is not supposed to be some complex, you know, well thought out thing. This is a very simple concept. So we're just going to stick to that and just make sure that one function works. Obviously, you know, with voice recognition, you're always going to have some trouble, but yeah, it looks really interesting. Looks really fun. This looks like a great game. Like if you have a bunch of friends, you know, up to 8 friends, or, you know, or fewer, you could join a team. But yeah, you create a team, run around, and just have some fun shouting at each other. So definitely looks like a game worth checking out. I'm really interested in this, so I'll keep an eye on it, see where it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so interested. I'm like, oh man, $3. It's like, I think I have $3 sitting in my Steam account right now just from selling off Steam trading cards. So I might just pick it up and give it like a go, and make a video for the channel for next week, which is actually not a bad idea. But yeah, no, the like super fun. The shorts are absolutely hilarious. I think I watched one last night where the guy was asking his friend like, how do I test this out? And the guy was like, yeah, you just speak this spell. And he was like, divine light. And it was like a little flashbang where the whole screen turned white and it was like, no, and he can't see. And it was so bright. Like the short itself was bright. And I'm like, oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it seems like you could definitely screw up yourself or your friends just as easily. Yeah, and I can imagine there's a few of those like Alexa accidentally activates or she keeps misinterpreting what you're trying to say kind of situations, you know, where it's not coming out. I was talking Korean before the show. This would probably be a great game to play with Antoine because he has that French accent, and just watching, seeing how good it is able to recognize things. I can only imagine the madness.
Exactly. I think, yeah, I'll see. I gotta figure out if I can get stuck down. But I do have Friday off. But I gotta go to the could go check up some things at the hospital on Friday, but we will see. Cool. All right, like going to my last story for today. My last story is, of course, another cozy game, which is the Grand Bazaar. And I mean, this was like on a bunch of games I've been trying to think like, what am I gonna play this year? And this game was like, okay, cool. And I think, why did I not play Guardians of Asthma? I don't even remember. Oh, because it came out on the Switch earlier, and the Grand Bazaar hopefully does not come out on the Switch earlier. Otherwise, I'll have to find another game to play. And I need to check into that. But what is the Grand Bazaar? The Grand Bazaar is a remake, I guess, of a Nintendo Switch Story of Seasons game that they've remade, and it looks really nice. And I guess, like, as I mentioned on the show before, I've been spoiled with games like Coral Island, where like I've always wanted to go back to Stardew Valley, but after playing like Coral Island, I'm like, yes, I've become a little bit graphically snobby when it comes to cozy games. So it's another very similar. Like if you played the Story of Seasons game, you've played one, you've played them all. Kind of, it is different in some areas, right? So it's still the focus on relationships and dating and getting married and starting a family and that sort of stuff, right? It is different in a sense that it's inspired by Persian culture, so stuff looks different from like your typical farming environment that you might have got with Story of Seasons. Pioneers of Olive Town is a good example of that. There's the one after that, which I think, but this is different. Character names are also very Persian in a sense, like as much as they can be, with like a Japanese Persian aesthetic. This game also doesn't involve so much around money. Like it's about, I'll sell you my tomatoes and you give me this thing. So it's about trading and bartering more than sort of traditional monetary systems. Again, the similar things of, hey, yeah, go to a town, meet everybody, build relationships, give gifts again, which is just some of the stuff like I've done this, how many cozy games right now? Like a lot, and I'm still not bored of it. Like I still think it's interesting. After Valgard, I got back into the free game by this company called Singularity 6 Palia, which I totally hated when it first came out because you have to solve puzzles and stuff, and I hate puzzles when I'm in the cozy mood. I just want to get things done. So there's the usual stuff as well, seasonal events, right? Crafting, making, building things. You can customize the way you look, customize your shop, customize your house. So it looks really cool. The one thing with this though is that there's not a lot of like gameplay footage. Even the footage that I did find was very limited. Like the company, I think it's like XC Games or something, the publisher, they don't release a lot of footage for the games. Like it's very minimal. I'm thinking back to Guardians of Asdoma, there was like Japanese developers played this together and they talked about the game. I think that was the only live stream that they had before the game was released. Maybe that's a Japanese thing. I don't know. I think we've never spoken to any Japanese developers before. We'd love to. Anyone who's working on Ghost of Yotei, reach out to Adam. We'd love to talk to you.
They're an American developer, though.
Oh, they're an American developer. There you go. As I was saying, not a lot of gameplay yet. That being said, you can go to the YouTube channel. You can go onto social media. Apparently, they're really active on X. So if you like X, go there. They post a lot of gameplay stuff there. And so you'll see more stuff than you will on YouTube. I guess the X is for like the latest stuff. YouTube gets it later. But this is come out at the end of August if you're looking for another cozy indie game to play. I haven't played it yet. I don't even think I can't remember the last Story of Seasons game I did play. But again, I think this year we're not getting what is that guy's name? The guy who made Stardew Valley. His game is not coming out this year. So if you are looking for something that's, you know, Stardew Valley-esque, this is probably the best thing you're gonna get that I can see from the release calendar for the remainder of 2025. But let me know what you think. A former co-worker of Adams and mine, Nicole, she played the last Story of Seasons. She was not a big fan of Pioneers the whole time. She was like, don't buy it, it's not worth it. So hopefully this is better. It is a remake. The original Grand Bazaar did well on the DS from what I saw. So maybe this will do equally as well. At least I can say it looks pretty. That's a good thing for me anyway. We'll see if the gameplay holds up in 2025 or like how they adjusted the gameplay to sort of, you know, make or get used to sort of the things that players expect, modern gaming expectations in 2025. But comment down below, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video, and then I'll see you next week for another one. All right, sir, diving straight into your very first question.
Woohoo.
So licensed beat 'em ups have had a resurgence. Any particular licensed property you'd like to see? We've gotten or are getting TMNT, G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, Marvel, Toxic Crusaders. What would you like to see?
Yeah, and thinking about it, I actually have two answers. So first, the first one that immediately came to mind was kind of the old cartoons. If you've watched Cartoon Network over the years, you know, Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack, Ed, Edd and Eddy. I think that would be a really good way to do it, and I think a lot of the characters actually could bring a lot to the table. Obviously, Powerpuff Girls are good at fighting. Dexter's got all his inventions, and Samurai Jack, I mean, come on. So I think that'd be a good one. But also, I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know, Power Rangers would probably work well. But then Power Rangers made me think of Kamen Rider, and Kamen Rider made me think of Ultraman, and Ultraman made me think of Godzilla. And that makes me think we should have like a kaiju beat 'em up where it's kind of like a cross between a beat 'em up and Rampage. And you're just running around as like all these Toho monsters. Yeah, I think that'd be a really fun one too.
Are there enough monsters for that?
Oh my God, dude, there's so many kaiju. Come on.
I don't know, because I know you're the expert on this stuff.
Godzilla,
Like...
I was looking it up the other day. Godzilla is... So I was like, what is the longest running movie franchise? And the longest is this, it's this Chinese folk hero. He's got like 100 and something movies, but they're all like these really kind of cheaply made movies. But if you're looking at longest running franchises for major franchises, Godzilla is one of, if not the longest. It's 30 something movies. And yeah, there's tons and tons and tons of kaiju. So many. And Godzilla is not the only franchise. You also have Gamera and his whole group of enemies. There's tons.
Oh yeah, I'm looking it up now. There's Burning Godzilla, Mothra, Leo, Rainbow M.
There's different versions of Godzilla. Yeah, there's all the Mothra offshoots. Yeah, Mothra, Leo, yeah. And all the enemies that Mothra's fought. You got Rodan.
Baganosaurus, Bagan, Belkazardan. I'll kind of pronounce some of these names.
You got a whole bunch of them. Yeah. You got
Okay,
Mecha
cool.
Godzilla. You got what? There's like 5 versions of Mecha Godzilla at this point. Yeah.
Yes.
There's so many. You could throw King Kong in there too.
I will take it. And then, so we had something that just dropped 6 hours ago. I guess 7 hours after we've been recording. The Roblox CEO horrifies every parent alive with his ambition that the platform become a dating hub. Even if he promises age verification, a virtual date to start, and then if they connect, move to the physical world. Published by the PC game writer Richard Stanton. Check that out. What do you think?
I think this is a terrible idea. I mean, creating a place that's originally designed for children and then having adults have adult interactions in that space is asking for trouble. I mean, like, you know, you get something, age verification doesn't work. Let's be honest. You know, it's, even if you do facial scans, right? Death Stranding is getting people around those in the UK or whatever, or the Europe or wherever it is. So yeah, that's just not going to work. And then, you know, yeah, it's just a bad idea. You're just asking for trouble. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. Like, I mean,
trying to
I
keep my
can't
answers
think.
in a short. I'm like, I could go
No,
on
no,
this for a
you're
long
supposed
time.
to. Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, think of all the students I know who still play Roblox who are like, I mean, I only teach
Oh
third
yeah.
graders now, and they're all into Roblox. And they always ask me, teacher, how many Robux do you have? I'm like, well, I don't play Roblox. My partner does. And I know she has a few thousand Robux, because she buys it every month. So, but no, like I mean, there are adults. There are a large number of adults who
Oh
do
yeah.
play Roblox, and I mean, Roblox influencers online. They're definitely all over 18, but it definitely like no, this is a horrible idea. Totally agree with you. Like I worry about third graders and especially Taiwanese parents who are our age or just any parents who are our age. Like in this modern society, you don't have a lot of time to take care of who your kids are playing with, what they're playing, and lots of kids will learn horrible things from playing Roblox. Like yeah, no, I have a kid who's just in my class for the summer who keeps saying like this one particular foul word, and I'm like, dude, that's not okay. Why are you saying that? And the other two was like, yeah, because there's a new game on Roblox where people say this word all the time to express how upset they are.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a game at any age. You know, you don't have to be a kid to enjoy Roblox. You can be an adult that enjoys Roblox. That's perfectly fine. And I'm sure that there are games on Roblox oriented towards an older audience. I can guarantee you that exists. But I mean, yeah, to be the person who creates the platform and to go out of your way to create, to take a space that's initially designed to be kind of like a safe space for kids and be like, I want to introduce an adult element into that. Yeah, it's just, you know, like kids are going to find their way into it. Like if you create something like, say, Tinder, a 10-year-old is not interested in dating people. You know, a 10-year-old is, your average 10-year-old has zero interest in joining Tinder, right? You know, there's weird people everywhere, but you know, your average 10-year-old has no interest in joining Tinder, so it's a place for adults, and then you know, kids can go off and do their own thing. But then when you combine those spaces, that's where trouble comes from.
Totally agree. Hopefully, but again, you know, companies are always driven by the almighty dollar or pound or wherever country you're living in. That being said, Adam, Felicity, what's happening with you this week, next week? Schedule is still the same. Still playing Doll's Nest online, I guess. Streaming Doll's
No,
Nest.
I have entered my summer phase, and we're off today, but we're streaming here. Yeah, starting this week, I am on the summer morning camp, so I will not be streaming again this week, next week, or the following week. I think maybe the week after that is when I come back, last week of August or something like that. But until then, I will not be streaming unless we get another rain day like today or there's a typhoon day. If that happens, yes, I will stream. But that will be not scheduled, so.
Are you going to be streaming later today?
Nah, I don't think so. I think some of the guys want to get together and play some games. So might play some Death Stranding too. That's kind of my major one. I'm doing a little bit of Doll's Nest, but mostly I'm doing Death Stranding 2. The wife really enjoys watching Death Stranding 2. So
you did mention that.
Yeah. She really likes to watch it. I will say, I'm enjoying Death Stranding 2. It's a great game. I love it. I think gameplay wise, it's better than the first, but it's not resonating with me as much as the original did. And I know at least one reason why that's true, and I won't go into that because of spoiler reasons. But yeah, for me personally, I think it's a better game, but it's not as good of an experience, if that makes any sense.
I love that. I'm gonna actually clip that as a short. I'm gonna replace it with something this week. Adam's one sentence take on Death Stranding.
Yeah, that's just my personal. Yeah, it's not resonating with me as much as the original one did.
That's fine. Like I feel like that exact opinion happened to me this year for some game, and I can't remember what it is. I guess I'll see. But I guess I'll also test that out when the Other World 2 comes out in October. But Wonderful. I should be getting ready to head out in the rain and buy some food because, unlike Adam and his wife who cook at home, there's no cooking in this house. I need to go outside and buy.
We boil noodles.
Oh, okay. Good. That's still better than us. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you to Adam for making time despite his very crazy summer schedule.
Oh, I told them Tuesday I'm not free.
So I appreciate it. I mean, if you go back on years, there are years where Adam is not available on a Tuesday, and it's just me or just me and Antoine. So we appreciate the time. We appreciate you guys as always supporting us. Last week, I know you guys loved the Xbox Microsoft stuff. I did too. That was a very well summed up opinion. And we will see you guys next week for some more news, more games, and maybe more interesting things coming out like Major League. Take care, everyone.
Good one.